Daf. I can tell because I spilled my coffee this morning on the block. We are on Daf Yerushalmi Yevamos. Okay, and we're up to this case in Mesa Rishona. Now, just to sum up where we are till now, we're talking about a case when a guy had two brothers, were married to two sisters, or any other area. The sisters' issue is not so much an issue here. He had two brothers married to two sisters, and they both fell before him. Either they fell simultaneously, one after the other, doesn't matter, but they're both in front of him for chalitza evil purposes. So according to Rabbanan, he has to chalitza on both of them. According to Rabbi Shimon, he just does chalitza to the first one, and the second one is exempt. Now, in Rabbi Shimon Shita, there was a machlokas which he has last night. The Rabbanan, the Rabbanan of Bavel, the Babylonian rabbis held, the Rabbanan de Talmud, that's true, even if he only the second one is exempt, even before he did anything at all to the first one. In other words, the second one to fall before him, she just goes free because she's already an erva. The first one to fall before him was suitable. The second one is an erva to the first one, so the second one just goes free. Right? There's nothing to do about her. According to Rabbi Lezer, however, Rabbi Lezer's approach in Rabbi Shimon, he holds that the second one goes free only after he did a maisa to the first one. Now, either he did chalitza to the first one, or he did the maisa iser yibum to her. He's really not supposed to be miyabim her, because by the time he's miyabim her, he already has achos kukasa, right? He has two kukas to him, both of whom if he can't take together. So he really shouldn't do anything to the first one, b'drabanan. But if he went ahead and did it, so by doing either chalitza or yibum to the first one, so he exempts the second one. Okay? So that's the machlokas. According to Rabbanan the Talmud, the second one is exempted before he does anything to the first one. According to Rabbi Lezer, he's only exempt after she does something to the first one. Now, the logic of Rabbanan is that the language which Rabbanan used, to explain their position, the Rabbanan Talmud is Ein Zika Nofeles L'Makom Zika. One Zika cannot fall where there's another Zika. Now, of course, it can, theoretically, when they're two Nachrios, when they're not related to each other. But when the two Yevamos are related to each other, so one Zika can't fall on another Zika. Right? So therefore, that's why she goes free, the second one, even before he did anything to the first one.
It'll eliminate a good percentage of the cases that we've had so far.
If you all like Rabbi Shimon, we don't all like Rabbi Shimon, we all like Rabbanan. The whole discussion is according to Rabbi Shimon, but according to Rabbanan, you have to chalitza on both no matter what. But yeah, this is all according to Rabbi Shimon. Now, Mesa de Rabbanan, now, so up to Mesa Rishona, which is on the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9th line down. Or is it 8th line down? 8th line down. Mesa Rishona. If the first one dies, now the first of the two Yevamos in question dies, I'll die to the Rabbanan mutter b'shniya. Even according to the rabbis. It's certainly according to Rabbi Lezer, he's mutter in the second one. Why is that? Because according to is it kosher? Yeah. Well, according to it's not kosher. It's the same thing. The only reason the second one you're chayav on, the only second one is according to I can't get this out. The only reason according to Rabbanan you have to decide to explain to the second one is because Rabbanan the only reason you have to explain to the second one is because the first one and the second one are both around. The first one is no longer around, so then you can just take the second one. Again, this is the Rabbanan, this whole business, so then you can just take the second one. Hayla Rishona, going on 9th line down on the New Testament base. Hayla Rishona Tzara. Now, the case, I really should show it to you inside and make it easier to understand. If you have in this case here, right? Reuven and Shimon were married to two sisters, or it doesn't. It's not germane exactly what their relationship is, but they're related to each other. With two sisters, just as any other relationship. And then Reuven and Shimon die, and Levi now is zakuk to both. Right? Levi has to do something to both of them. So Rabbanan holds he does chalitza to both. Rabbi Shimon holds he does chalitza to the first one, and the second one is exempt. And now, what happens if the Reuven had another co-wife? It was not related. There was a co-wife here on the side, not related. So chalatz hayel rishon tzara chalatz law. If he did chalitza to the co-wife who was not in the picture here, chalatz law. So in that case, niftara tzarasa, right? In this case, of course, you don't do chalitza to Rachel. You do either chalitza to the co-wife or to Rachel, right? Now, hayel ashniya tzara. What if Leah had a tzara? He did chalitza to Rachel, and Leah had a tzara. Now, Leah, he can't do anything because that's achas kukaso, achas chalutzaso, the sister of the woman who had zika to, the sister of the woman to whom he did chalitza to. So, of course, he can't marry Leah. But what about a co-wife of Leah? So kones tzara umekaymes ishto. He's allowed to marry the tzara. He's allowed to marry the tzara, umekaymes ishto, and he can keep his wife v'aser b'shniya, and he's forbidden in the second one. Now, this is a very interesting case. This is really a case which we had previously. So this is talking about he did chalitza to the second one. I'm sorry, he did chalitza to the first one. In this case, if he did yibum on Rachel, okay, he did yibum on Rachel, and then we're going according to Rabbi Shimon now, because according to Rabbi you have to do chalitza on both. But according to Rabbi Shimon, who holds that you could do something on the first one, I think Rabbi Shimon.
I thought he couldn't do yibum. He just
no. According to Rabbi Shimon, he can do yibum on the first one. According to Rabbanan, he can do. According to Rabbanan, he must do chalitza on both. According to Rabbi Shimon, he can do yibum on the first one, and then the second one goes free. Do yibum chalitza on the first one, the second one goes free. I made a mistake before. What so I said
you said just
he had right. He has to do chalitza.
Yeah, right. He did chalitza on both.
That's according to Rabbanan, but according to Rabbi Shimon. So you can even do yibum on the first one. It's not just chalitza.
Oh.
I don't think we had that yesterday.
I think it's only according to Rabbanan the Talmud. Yeah. All right. According to Rabbi Eliezer. We had, as I said before, we had a machlokas Rabbi Lezer and Rabbanan yesterday. Rabbi Lezer holds, in this case, according to Rabbi Shimon, you must do chalitza on Rachel. Mr. Zuger, look here. You must do chalitza on Rachel, and Leah then goes free. According to Rabbanan to Tamon, you can do yibum on Rachel, okay, and then Leah goes free, right? It's either or. So Rabbi Lezer holds you must do specifically chalitza. Rabbanan hold you can do yibum. That's Rabbanan in Rabbi Shimon. There's another Rabbanan, not to be confused with these Rabbanan, who argue in Rabbi Shimon hold you have to do chalitza on both. Then it says there's Rabbanan in the Mishnah, those are the ones who hold you have to do chalitza on both. Then there's Rabbanan the Tamon, the rabbis in Bavel who are Amoraim, who explained to Rabbi Shimon that you can do you're not supposed to do yibum, you do chalitza on Rachel, and then Leah goes free. Now, according to Rabbanan, I got it wrong again. Rabbi Lezer holds you have to do chalitza on Rachel, and then Leah goes free. Rabbanan Talmud holds you can do either chalitza or yibum on Rachel, and then Leah goes free. Now, again, the case which we have now, we're talking about is according to Rabbanan the Talmud hold you can do either chalitza or yibum on Rachel. What happens if you had here another co-wife for Leah, and Levi did yibum on Rachel, and and Yibum on the co-wife of Leah. Not on Leah, but on the co-wife of Leah. So that's what it says here, that works. Okay?
Well, if Leah goes free, then certainly Leah's Tzara goes free. And he could marry her.
No, the question is, why it should be mutter to marry her? It should be Achos, it should be Eishes Achiv, it should be Tzaras Erva. It should be Tzaras Erva. Right? Because Leah is forbidden from him. Now, these are all Ervas to Rabbanan, not the Raisa. But Leah is forbidden to him. So if Leah is forbidden to him, how can he marry the co-wife? The Tzara should be forbidden as well, right? So how can he marry her? But that's what Gemara says. Right? He marries a Tzara, keeps his wife, which is Rachel, and it's forbidden in Leah, right? So it says the Gemara, Hadahi, this teaches us mutar adam, person allowed to marry, Achos, Tzaras, it should be a Vimto. She's allowed, person allowed to marry the sister of the Tzara. No, this one. The sister, the Rachel, of the Tzara of Leah, of his Yevamos.
Oh, okay.
Okay? In other words, he's allowed to be married to Rachel, who's the sister of the Tzara of his Yevamos. Okay? That's what it means here. Okay, you see that? So that's what it's talking about. Now ask the more of Yeh Aser B'Tzara. What about the other way? Okay, that makes sense. But how can he marry the co-wife? He should be also the co-wife Mishum Tzaras, because she's the co-wife of Krovas, and it should be Ishto of his wife. In other words, it should work the other way. It should be Aser. I understand that Rachel is Mutzin because Rachel is the sister of the co-wife of his Yevamos, who's not in the picture. But the woman who's not in the picture should be Aser because she's the co-wife of the sister of his wife, right? So it's like Tzaras Erva, right? So again, the Aser B'Tzara Mishum Krovas Mishum Tzaras Krovas Chalu Ishto. So Rabbi Yehuda said, Ilu Bikesh. So here we have the same story we had a blot ago, very interesting one, which is Ilu Bikesh. In this case, it's not the same. It's not comparable to a normal case of Tzaras Erva, because in this case, Ilu Bikesh, before he married Rachel. In other words, were Rachel to have been his wife, that before the Yibum, that would have been something else. But Rachel was not his wife before the Yibum. He started off being, a bachelor, right? So that means before he married Rachel, could he have married Leah? Yes. Yeah. Right? Could have married Leah, technically speaking, right? Couldn't be Rabbana, he's supposed to do Chalitza, but technically speaking, could have married Leah. And could he have married Leah's co-wife? Also, could have married Leah's co-wife, right? So therefore, since before the Zika, before he decided to be Miyabim Rachel, neither Leah nor the co-wife was Aser, that's not called Tzaras Erva. Because it means that she only becomes an Erva after Shimon died. Well, Shimon was alive, it wasn't an Erva, right? Theoretically, if Reuven had never died, certainly in that case, Levi could have married Leah or Leah's co-wife. So the only reason that Shimon's wife Leah became an Erva on Levi is because both Reuven and Shimon died, and now, by force of coincidence, they're sisters to each other, Achios Yevamos, and that causes one to be Aser. But in essence, they're not inherent tzaras. I guess the way word I'm looking for is they're not intrinsically tzaras, but just situationally because of the misfortune of them having both died tzaras. That's not called a tzara. There's no such thing as the Gemara says here, v'tzara la'achar misa. Either tzara before the husband, i.e. the brother of the Yavam dies, or not a tzara at all. Okay, so that's the principle we're stating here. So it says more again. Let's see it inside. If you want to have relations with the tzara, with the co-wife of Leah, before he married Rachel, Shemein Mutter, would he not be Mutter? But Chilu Mutter, so before he married Rachel, be Mutter her, B'sofu Aser, now becomes Aser her because he did marry Rachel. You say that Nimtseisa Oset Tzara L'achar Misa. So you're making a tzara, an artificial tzara after the death of the brother. Vein tzara la'achar misa, and there's no tzara after death. You don't want to sit there
Why is that?
because you got to see the book.
I'll lean over.
The Chavashita say the Rabbi Shimon. So we have a contradiction of Rabbi Shimon. Talmud Hoimer. Now this is a case later on, which actually is we haven't seen yet. Talmud is later on. This case over here. You have three brothers. Reuven, told you. Reuven, Shimon, and Levi. Right? Reuven is married to Rachel. Shimon is married to Dinah. Then Reuven dies. Shimon does Maimer and Rachel. Doesn't fully marry her. Okay, so there's immediate problems, right? Shimon does Maimer to Rachel. Then, of course, needless to say, Shimon dies as well. So I don't know why Chana's in the picture. I don't know what relevance that has. But Levi is not allowed to marry neither Dinah nor Rachel. He's got to do chalitza, okay, on both of them. So there, that's the Rabbanim. But Rabbi Shimon, Talmud Oimer Miyavin Leizer Shiyutza V'Chol T'Shnia. There, Rabbi Shimon, however, says he has to do, he does chalitza to one and yibum to the other. So, of course, contradiction. First, I know you're all wondering about the logic of it, right? But look, forget about the logic. More is asking a contradiction. In our Mishnah, Rabbi Shimon patters up the second one. He says you don't do anything to the second one. There, Rabbi Shimon says you have to chalitza one and yibum on the other. So the word is really more concerned with the contradiction than the internal logic over there. Okay? So it says, you have to eat one and chalitza on the other. And here he says, not like that. He says you just do something to the first one, and the second one goes free.
But it's not a comparable case, so there's no contradiction because he did Maimer.
Oh, so where's the answer? Very good. See, you know your promissory. He said, while I was still been Bavel, Shami's time, I heard the logic, and it's a very good logic, distinction. There's an optical illusion here. You think they're two co-wives, but you think that there's a co-wife problem, but there really isn't. Why? Now we have to stretch back in our memory. Actually, we have it again tonight. What's Rabbi Shimon's attitude towards Maimer? Rabbi Shimon holds. I don't know if Maimer works, but if it does, it's double or nothing. Right? Either Maimer works completely, or Maimer doesn't work at all. Remember, that's Rabbi Shimon Shita. Rabban Maimer makes a miktzas kinyan. Rabbi Shimon holds it either works completely or it doesn't work at all. So then, therefore, over here, it's an optical illusion. Either Rachel is fully married to Shimon, or Rachel is still married to Reuven. It was still the Yevama of Reuven, right? Now Rachel is not related to Dinah, right? No. So therefore, Rabbi Shimon over there, of course, you have to do to both. If theoretically you could do Yibum to both, if Maimer doesn't work at all, you could do Yibum on both. Because that means that the Rachel is the skuka because Reuven died, and Dinah is the skuka because Shimon died, right? If Maimer works, you can't do on both because then they're both Shimon's wife, but you can do on one or the other, right? But since Maimer might not work, right, in which case there's no relative, they're not co-wives at all, it's still Rachel's, so Rachel is coming off of Reuven to Levi, so that's why I have to chalitza Ibum. That's Pashut, right? You have to chalitza Ibum because it's Zikar Shnei Yavmin, right? It's two separate Yavamim. Zikar Shnei Yavmin, I'm sorry. At the time of Zikar Shnei Yavmin ain't a Zika. There's no Zika of two Yavmin on Rachel, right? It's to either she's the Yavama of Reuven or of Shimon. She's not coming from two of them, and therefore the Zika nofeles the Makom Zika. That's why the Zika of Reuven falls together with the Zika of Shimon, right? And that's why Levi's got to do something to both of them, right? However, Hacha Bram Hacha, but here the case is different. Here we're talking about, back in our case, we're talking about where the Zika fell simultaneously from Reuven and Shimon, and more of the catch here is that these two women are related to each other. And that's why Ein Zika Nofel Samakum Zika. The Zika you cannot have a double Zika here. It can't, because these two women are related to each other, either sisters to each other, or mother and daughter, whatever the case may be. So Bram Hacha Zika's Yava Mechad, and that's the Zika of the Yava Mechad. There can only be one Zika because of the nature of the relationship between these two sisters. Vein Zika Nofeles the Makom Zika, and the Zika can't fall under the Zika, so therefore here, you only have to do the one. The minute you did the one, the other one is off the hook. Okay? Amar Rab Misani say you don't even have to come on to that. It's a partial chiluk. Stop getting lomdish. Here it's two sisters, so that's you only do on one of them and not the other one. Over here it's Dina and Rachel are not related to each other, so therefore you have to do on each one separately. If you want to ask a kasha al hidra b'zeir b'sher Rav Sheshes. I got a better kasha if you'd ask. Ask them the question for the case over here, not our case, but the case later on. Ask on the case of Rabbi Zira and name of Rav Sheshes. Now, Rabbi Zira and name of Rav Sheshes is the case we had some time ago. That we had in the name. Well, let me show it to you inside, and it'll make it easier to explain the question. Here, you had Ruvain, Shimon, Levi. Ruvain was married to Dinah. Ruvain died. Shimon did Yibum to Dinah, right? Now, Shimon died. So now there's Dinah and Tamar. Now, Levi was born after Shimon was Miyabim Dinah, right? So Rabbi Shimon holds, in that case, you're allowed to do Yibum on either Tamar or Dinah, because when Levi came into the world, Reuven was no longer a factor, since Dinah was already was already married to Shimon, right?
And
so
they're not related. Dinah and Tamar.
No.
What?
Dinah and Tamar are not real.
Not it's not Eichach Shlo Yabom. But what about that in the case? Although this is not the case picture here, we don't have the case. What about the case where Dinah only did Mimer, right? Dinah only did Mimer, not Yibum. So therefore, it's a question. So in that case, Rabbi Shimon says, "Oh, forget it. Levi's got to do chalitza to both of them. They're both also, right?" So Rabbi Shimon, either Rabbi Sheshes, Tali Taman, David Rabbi Shimon Shtein Asuros. Rabbi Shimon says that they're both also. So Mechav Shitasid Rabbi Shimon. That's the case. It's a contradiction. Rabbi Shimon. Taman Omer Shtein Mutar Asuros. Over there, he says they're both also, right? Tamar is also because I forgot why Tamar is also. Why is Tamar also? She's a Torah Sarah Bashal. Right. No, she's a Torah Sarah. Oh, okay. So yeah, let me sure I say it correctly. Yeah. The question is, why should they both be also? Even in a mimer case. Look, in this case, a mimer over here, we did mimer on one, and the other one is your co-wife. So Rabbi Shimon said over here, you do yibum on a chalitza, and the other take your choice. So here too, according to Rabbi Shimon, at least Tamar should be permitted, right? Right? Maybe Dinah is also, right? Because we don't know if mimer is kohen or isn't kohen. But why is Tamar also? Right? The Tamar should be mutter. The reason why the reason why it is also there, the Pnei Moshe explains very nicely. He says that the reason why it is also over there is because Rabbi Shimon holds that the Zika answers. In other words, the fact it's true you did. Well, I don't even know if it come out to, but now I think about it, I don't even know. Yeah, let's see. Yeah, it's just a straightforward question. I have a whole numbers which I wrote on the side this morning, but it's not necessary. It's a partial question. It's a very good question, and the Pnei Moshe wants to give an answer, but the Gemara itself doesn't give an answer. It's actually a very good question, which it's very hard to answer. Over here again, in this case of Mimer, so Rabbi Shimon said you could do Levi, you could do Yibum on either one. Yibum one, Chalitza on the other. Either one he wants.
I thought it was just Yibum on the woman that had the mimer.
No, in the case on later on, you do Yibum on either one, right? Because if Rachel is, because no problem, right? So no matter what, Rachel is going to be okay. Either because Rachel is Zaku because of Ruvain, or Rachel Zaku because of Shimon. But it doesn't matter if she's Zaku because of Shimon. Of course, you can only take one, not the other. Either or you can take. You don't take both, but either or. But here, so that's the case. Why does Rabbi Shimon say in this case you can't take either one? Again, assuming this is Maimer, not Yibum. L'chayra, Dina would be a problem, because Dina might be Eshes Sachiv Shloya Balamo. But there's no reason to Asr Tamar. Why shouldn't Tamar be Muteris, right? So that's the Gemara's kasha. Why here was he inconsistent in Asr also Tamar, whereas in our case, inconsistent with our case, where he would be Matir, whichever one you chose. So that's a good kasha. Okay.
So Tamar is in Tzaras Erva?
No, because either Manavshach, if the Maimer works, then they're both married to Shimon at the time the Levi's born. So he can choose either one. If Maimer doesn't work, then Dina was never married to Shimon to begin with. So it's not Tzaras Erva. Right? Because if the Maimer works, it's fully Shimon's. If the Maimer doesn't work, it's not Shimon's. So true, Dina is not Skuka to Levi, but that shouldn't make any difference vis-a-vis Tamar. Let Tamar be a Skuka no matter what. Okay? That's a good question. Alright, I tried to make it all lumdish this afternoon, totally unnecessary. Shlosha Achi. Next case. Next table. Shlosha Achi. 3 brothers. Reuven, Shimon, Levi. Reuven and Shimon were married to 2 sisters. They kicked the bucket. Then Levi did Maimer to Leah. Okay? Sequence wrong. Reuven died. Levi did Maimer to Leah. Then Shimon died. And now Rachel is Kuka. Of course, Rachel is Leah's sister. What do you do? Okay, that's the question. Okay, Reuven died first. Leah marries Levi. Maimer. And then Shimon dies and leaves the sister Rachel. So Shlosh Achim Shnayim Mehem Nusum Shtei Achis V'Acha Echad Mufne. One is a bachelor. See, he saw his brothers. He remained a bachelor. Umei Sechel V'Ali Achis. One of the sister's husbands died. And the guy who was free, he did Maimer in her, right? Now the second brother, Shimon, dies. Beishamai says he gets to keep his wife. He did Maimer on Leah, that suffices to be considered his wife. And the other one, Rachel, she goes out because she's his sister's wife and she's an Erba. He's got to divorce his wife because she's not fully married to him. And she's got to get rid of his Yevama with Chalitza because she's not fully skuka to him. In this case, they said, Oilo al ishto, oilo al ishto. Woe to him because he loses his wife, woe to him because he loses his brother's wife as well. Of course, maybe if he doesn't like them, it's not so woe to him. But assuming he does like them, this is kind of a tragedy. Okay. Beishamai Krebelaz ben Arach. Now Beishamai says more absolute to Krebelaz ben Arach. Krebelaz ben Arach Meimer Maimer Koinakin and Gomer Biyavama. Obviously, Beishamai holds that Leah is Ashes Levi, holds that Maimer is a King and Gomer Biyavama. Says more, no, that can't be. In Krebelaz ben Arach, if that's Krebelaz ben Arach, Giresh Lebalas Maimer Lo Teitzricha Chalitza. Then if he divorces Leah, he should not have to do Chalitza on Rachel. Because even once you've divorced a woman, her sister is also due. Yet, Vam Rabbi Hila b'Shem Rabbi Lezer, or listen to Rabbi Lezer, Moda Beishamai, the Beishamai concedes, Shim Giresh L'Balas Maimer, that by the time he did Maimer to Leah, then he decided, I hate this woman's guts. I don't want to be Miyabemer, and he divorces her, right? And then Rachel falls in front of him. So he's not allowed he has to do Chalitza to Rachel. Rachel can't go free Lashuk. Why? If Maimer was a true marriage to Leah, and now Leah became Megureshes, was divorced by him, so Rachel is Eshes Grusha, is Achel's Grusha, so it's his divorcee's sister, and a divorcee's sister is also to you as well, right? So why do you have to Chalitza on her, right? So how come Rabbi Hila b'Shem Rabbi Lezer said Moedi Beishamai Shigir Shabbat Maimer that he divorces Leah? He's got to do Chalitza on Rachel. How come? Elo Rebbe Shimon. So maybe we'll say Beishamai to Rebbe Shimon. Rebbe Shimon Amar HaMaimer Okone Elo Kone. As I told you a few minutes ago, Rebbe Shimon holds Maimer either works completely or doesn't work completely, and that's why Beishamai says what they say. So that can't work either. In Rebbe Shimon Manashach. If according to Rabbi Shimon, look, no matter where you look at it, kana maimer v'enachrav klum. If maimer is koine, then it's just like a marriage, and then even if a divorce is later, again, Rachel should not require chalitza. Lo kana maimer, but if maimer doesn't work, lami ishto imo. Then how can Beis Shammai have the audacity to say, the halachic audacity to say that he gets to keep Leah, and Rachel gets sent away because of achos ishto? It's not. It can't be. In other words, Beis Shammai is saying with certainty that you do not have, in this case, any need, with Levi still married to Leah, in the state of Maimer, any need to do anything to Rachel. According to Shimon al Safik, you have to do chalitza to Rachel, because if Maimer doesn't work, right, so he did nothing to Leah, so then Rachel still requires chalitza. So it says the Gemara, Shema Maimer the Beis Shammai Kazikas Rabbi Shimon. Maybe the Maimer according to Beis Shammai is like Zika according to Rabbi Shimon. I'll die to the Rabbanan Talmud according to the way the Rabbanan and Talmud explained it. Kimad Rabbanan, the Talmud Armin, this Rabbanan Talmud, this Talmud is extra because the Rabbanan Talmud make the following statement. What did the Rabbanan Talmud say? They said, Kimad Rabbanan Armin ha Maimer koine b'shayir, just like Rabbanan say, Maimer is a quasi-kinyan. Kain Rabbi Shimon omer koine m'shayeres. So the Rabbi Shimon says that Zika is a quasi-kinyan. It's koine partially and b'shayir partially, right? So now we can say that maybe Beis Shammai holds that Maimer is like Zika according to Rabbi Shimon. Now I don't know why we had to say that. We could have just said that Beis Shammai holds that Maimer is a quasi-kinyan in and of itself, right? I don't know exactly what the Gemara is trying to say by this. But in any event, the idea is that if Maimer is a quasi-kinyan, so then it means it's not a Rabbanan kinyan, it's a quasi-kinyan d'oraisa. And the ramifications are, of course, as follows. That if Levi did Maimer to Leah, and he's still married to Leah, still in state of Maimer, then Rachel goes scot-free. Because there's a kinyan on Leah which overrides the kinyan on Rachel. But if Leah gets divorced from Levi, so then, albeit, achos grushaso is normally usher, but that's achos of a full-blown grusha, right? But this is achos of a Maimer grusha, right? And Maimer is only a mixas kinyan. So therefore, Rachel has got to get separately a chalitza. So that means it's actually, according to Beis Shammai, a concept of, even I guess according to Yerushalmi in general, this concept of a chati marriage. It's not a full marriage. And there are ramifications of that. And these are all d'oraisas here. We're not talking about the Rabbanan, but d'oraisas. Maimer is a quasi-marriage. If you're still married to Leah, Rachel goes scot-free. If you're no longer married to Leah, because of a gerushin, then Rachel requires chalitza. It's an amazing concept. But the more continues with that concept.
She can have a quasi-mamzer also if she has.
Yes, everything is quasi, right? You're going to have a whole universe of quasi. The Twilight Zone. Okay? So it says more the Twayibum Zone. Says more further. Rabbi Shimon Omer, Ainzi, Rabbi Shimon ain't Zika no fels to Malcolm Zika. Rabbi Shimon says, well, since Rabbi Shimon holds Zika is a quasi-kinyan, I see now why the Yerushalmi brought it the way it did, because the Yerushalmi wanted to develop this thought. Just like Yerushalmi is just developing what I said outside, inside. I stopped short. Shimon ain't Zika no fels to Malcolm Zika. We said it right before. Once you have one Zika, another Zika can't fall on top of it. That's why Achios Soros, he holds that the second Achios Yevamos, he holds that the second sister goes scot-free. K'meshamrim hacha ain't Zika no fels to Malcolm Maimer. Rachel Zika can't fall where Leah's Maimer is still in effect, right? Now, if that's the case, Rabbi Yehuda asked the following question. Rabbi Yehuda asked, boy, Kiddush Isha me'achshav l'achar shloshim yoyim. You're Mekadesh, a woman, from now until after 30 days. So, what's the case there? But not, well, actually, I shouldn't finish the case. It's a really cool case. Unfortunate case, but you're nuts. You're insane. Should be put into insane asylum. What you did is you went. You were mekadesh and you said, "Well, I've seen insane kedusha wouldn't work." But you went and you said to the woman, "You're mekudesh for me from now until after 30 days." In other words, the kedusha will not complete itself until 30 days are up. It's okay. It probably brings down in kedusha as well. But this part is not the Bavli. Now, in the middle of those 30 days, her sister becomes Yerushalmi Yevamos. In other words, this girl's sister's married to your brother, and your brother dies in those 30 days. Now, what happens to the Zika? This Zika is not confronted with a mimer like Beis Shammai, but it's confronted with a Chatzi Kiddushin. Is that the equivalent, according to Beis Shammai, of mimer versus Zika, or not? Okay, l'chora, it should be similar. That's the premise of Gemara's question. Is this like when Zika confronts mimer, the Zika cannot take effect? So too, I should argue, when Zika confronts Chatzi Kiddushin, a Kiddushin which is still building up to its crescendo, so also the same thing applies, right?
This is like a Kiddushin on tonight?
No, it's not Kiddushin tonight. It's a progressively strong Kiddushin. In other words, all 30 days getting stronger and stronger and stronger.
And this is a legal...
Yeah, it works. I told you, it's insane, but it works, yeah. So, Afilu Kain, so, Ishto Imo, the way say, even in this case, his wife gets to keep his wife, the one who's quasi-wife, Tapuchaf on base, Va'Allah states in Mishum Ha'erach, and the other one goes out because of his wife's sister. So, Amri, they said, no. Beis Shammai never went that far. L'amri Beis Shammai el Aidei Zika v'Aidei Maimer. Beis Shammai said, where you have Maimer, which is full Kiddushin, full quasi-Kiddushin. This is an amazing Lomdisha concept. We have full quasi-Kiddushin, that pushes off Zika. But this is half Kiddushin. Do you see the difference? Maimer is full quasi-Kiddushin. But it's a full Kiddushin on the level to which it exists. When you're Mekadosh one beginning now and completing after 30 days, that is only a half of a Kiddushin. It's like a Chatzi Dover, not a full Dover. So that's why in that case it's possible that even Beis Shammai will agree that the Zika does devolve on the individual. It's an amazing concept.
Does the Zika maybe evolve as the 30 days are coming closer to its end?
Well, Zika's a one-shot deal. Either Zika happens when the brother hits the dust, bites the dust, or not, right? But there is a tremendous lumdus one could say here about the difference between Maim and Kedushin. The Ridbaz does actually say a little bit of that lumdus, right? But in any event, it's only in that case and not in this case. Okay, now what about this case of Rabbi Avo? The Rabbi Avo said in Shem Rabbi Yochanan, Afilu Kiddushin Mea Toifsim Bo. It says that if you have this guy who says you're Mekudesh for me after 30 days, and another guy comes and says you're Mekudesh to me from now until 29 days. And the other one says the next thing, you're Mekudesh to me from now until 28 days. So it says, Rabbi Yochanan says, Afilu Kedushin Mea Tosim, which requires a get from every one of them. They all are Chal. Every single one of them. So it says, Beis Shammai. That's not like Beis Shammai. Why it's not like Beis Shammai? Because Beis Shammai specifically made a statement that Zika is Chal, and Zika is pushed off by Maimer. Right? Zika is pushed off by Maimer, and he didn't make a statement about Kiddushin at all. Right? So we don't know whether that same that statement of Kiddushin will work out according to Beis Shammai, or won't work out. The way the Gillian Ephraim puts it, in matter of fact, he says, by the way, the Ridbaz learns it totally differently. The Ridbaz says that Beis Shammai does agree with this. It's like Bitmiyah. You think Beis Shammai would agree with this? Beis Shammai would agree with this, which makes sense because only to a certain extent. But the way Gillian Ephraim explains it, I like it more. Gillian Ephraim says Beis Shammai only holds that Beis Shammai says when two things are of the same name, it's not relevant to talk about leaving room. Meaning that if one guy made Kiddushin and another guy tries to make Kiddushin, they just clash, and the second one bounces off. The only time Beis Shammai says that it's possible for Zika to take place is if Zika take place after Maimer, is if they're not exactly the same thing. In other words, you have Maimer on the one hand and Zika on the other hand. So and the Maimer, of course, is talking about a case where there was a divorce already. So in that case, we could say somehow that the Zika finds a place. But by Kiddushin on Kiddushin, there Beis Shammai won't necessarily say that the second Kiddushin finds a place to take effect. As I'm talking it out now, though, I realize the Ridbaz makes a lot of more sense. The Ritbaz is the one who says, why should this not work out according to Beis Shammai? Right? The Kiddushin Me'at Taifsim Ba, this could work out because Beis Shammai said that Zika and Maimer can work. Beis Shammai would say that where the Maimer, since Maimer can push off Zika, Maimer can push off Zika as long as there's no Kiddushin, the Zika. Yes, that's true. But that's because Maimer, when it's made, is fully made, and that's why it pushes off Zika. But Kiddushin, which is partially made, maybe doesn't push off another Kiddushin. So why shouldn't Beis Shammai hold of this? Do you see what I'm trying to say? In other words, Beis Shammai holds, the Gemara just said the line before I'm explaining the Ritbaz, and now I like it very much. So again, Beis Shammai says Maimer pushes off Zika when the Maimer is in effect. But the Gemara said quite clearly, partial Kiddushin doesn't push off Zika, right? In other words, if you have a partial Kiddushin and then becomes Kuka, then it says, no, in that case, the Zika does take effect, right? Because it's only Maimer which pushes off Zika, but not partial Kiddushin. So the same thing is true according to Beis Shammai. Wouldn't Beis Shammai say the same thing, that if you have partial Kiddushin and another guy comes and makes Kiddushin, there too the second Kiddushin can also take effect? Am I explaining one more time? One more. Beis Shammai said, we know the Beis Shammai holds that Maimer, which is in effect, pushes off Zika. Then the Gemara asks, well, what about Kiddushin, which is partially in effect? Can that push off Zika? And the Gemara says, no. Beis Shammai agrees that Kiddushin, which is partially in effect, cannot push off Zika, right? Then the Zika takes effect, and the guy is up the creek, right? Now the Gemara says, Vahida Amar Avo. Now the case of Avo where you have a Kiddushin, and then somebody else tries to make Kiddushin, and a hundred people try to make Kiddushin. So according to the Ritbaz, it's like Veloka Beis Shammai. You think that doesn't work out according to Beis Shammai? That too works out according to Beis Shammai, because there the Kiddushin only took partial effect. So therefore, just like Zika can come and take effect after partial Kiddushin, so to another Kiddushin can take effect after partial Kiddushin. Again, the only thing which pushes off Zika is full-blown Maimer. Now it's true, Maimer is not a full Kiddushin, but to the extent that you did it, it's complete, and that pushes off Zika. But Kiddushin, which is partial, a half Kiddushin, like Mikan Lapish Lochimio, that can't push off Zika, right? So if that can't push off Zika, it also makes sense according to Beis Shammai to say that a partial Kiddushin can't push off another partial Kiddushin, right? Because it's even a Kal V'chomer, I think, now that I'm talking out. Look, a partial Kiddushin should be stronger than a Zika. If a partial Kiddushin can't push off a Zika, a partial Kiddushin shouldn't be able to push off another partial Kiddushin either. So the way the Gilin Ephraim learns it, no, it does according to Beis Shammai, because since they're both in the same koyach, so they deflect each other. But the Ritbaz makes a lot of sense. The Ritbaz says, when he's learning the Gemara, when it says, well, look at Beis Shammai, what do you think? It's not going like Beis Shammai? It is going like Beis Shammai. That's because it's the only thing which deflects, according to Beis Shammai, is when what you did completely. And the only thing which is relevant to that is a full Maimer. Okay? So be that as it may, we have two possible alternatives here. We know, everybody agrees, Beis Shammai holds Maimer deflects Zika when it's effect. We know that partial Kiddushin does not affect Zika. Right? So then, the question whether the last line is read as a statement or as a statement, V'lo Beis Shammai, or it's read as a bitmiyah, as an astonishment, where you think there's not like Beis Shammai, and that would mean this last case where you have a partial Kiddushin attacking a pre-existing partial Kiddushin, either that could go like Beis Shammai, or, which is what the Ritbaz is saying, because there, in effect, it's only a full Maimer which pushes off something, or it's not like Beis Shammai the way the Gilin Ephraim learns it, because Beis Shammai will say that since they are similar things, right, so therefore one cannot devolve on top of the other. Okay, next Mishnah. Shlosha Achim. This is over here. Shlosha Achim, 1, 2, 3, Reuven, Shimon, Levi. Shtay mehem nesuim shtei achios. Reuven and Shimon are married to two sisters. V'echad nasi nachris. And Levi is married to a Chana, who's not a sister, right? So then, what happened was Reuven died, right? Reuven died, and of course Shimon couldn't do Yibum on Reuven's wife because Reuven's wife was his wife's sister. So Levi does the Yibum, right? So now, and then of course Levi dies. So what do we say in this case? So both Leah, his wife's sister, and Chana, who is the co-wife, are both forbidden to him, right? So one is married to a foreign woman, if one of the husbands of the sisters dies, the one is married to a strange woman, marries as Ishto, his wife, if then he dies, then the second one goes out because Leah goes out because she is Rachel's sister. Rishon and Chana, the original wife, goes out Mishum Tzorasa because she is a co-wife. Also, but Maimer Umeis, what if Levi only did Maimer and Leah and didn't fully marry her? In that case, Nachris Choletzes Lo Miseh Bemes. So of course Leah goes scot-free because it's Achos Ishto. Chana requires Chalitza, not Yibum. Okay? Bein Rabbanan ben Rabbi Shimon Modibot. So it says this is really not a trick Mishnah. It's a straightforward Mishnah. Bein Rabbanan ben Rabbi Shimon Modibot. It's true both according to Rabbanan and Rabbi Shimon. Rabbanan hold Maimer is a quasi-Kinyan, right? Rabbanan tzad shekana Maimer connecta also mitzara. So since the quasi-Kinyan, the tzad to which Leah was acquired by Levi, that doesn't require anything, right? But the tzad, the other part, since only a quasi-Kinyan, which wasn't acquired by Levi, that requires Chana to get a chalitza. Again, since Leah is only partially acquired to Levi, so therefore Chana requires a chalitza. What's the problem?
Unusual terminology. It's almost like they're like a chatziyah and chatziyah ben.
Yeah, it's chatziyah. It's like that. Yeah.
That's not usual. That's not how I understood Maimer. Maimer's not Maimer isn't like some partial kinyan goes just so far in the woman, but doesn't go any further.
But that's how the Yerushalmi is depicting it here, right?
It's
So chiddush, okay, but that's so. I mean, I made Yerushalmi just doing it for simplicity's sake, but that's what Yerushalmi is doing here. You're right. So Karabon Tzach Kodam Maimer connect also b'tzorah. The part in which Maimer work is Aser is Chana, right? So and that's that she wouldn't require anything. But Tzach Lo Kodam Maimer, but to the extent the Maimer doesn't work, connect the Mutter b'tzorah. To that extent, Chana is Mutter to Shimon. So therefore, Leficho Chletza Mr. Ben Tzor does Chalitza, not Yibum. Rabbi Shimon, according to Rabbi Shimon, Kana Maimer, the Maimer works, and therefore Shtei Masuros. If Maimer works, they're both also, and they don't require anything. Lo Kana Maimer, if Maimer doesn't work, Harishana also, then Leah, of course, is Asura, because she's Achos Ishto, but Hashniya Muteres. Chana would be Mutzer if Maimer doesn't work. So therefore, Misafek, Choletzes Lo Miseh Bemes. Therefore, because Safek, since you don't know where the Maimer works, then you have to do Chalitza and not Yibum. Next case, Shlosh Achim, Shnayim Mehem Nesuim Shtei Achim. Same case, Vechon Nasi Nachtori. Same case originally. Umeis Nasi Nachris. But here the guy who dies is one who's married to a Nachris, to a strange one, right? So Levi was married to Chana, he dies, right? In the meantime, so where Chana goes, the Kohen Ba'achas marries one of the husband's sisters, not to remain which one, but in this picture he marries Shimon. She marries Shimon, right? Of Umeis, and then Shimon dies. Rishoyna Yetz Mishum Achos. So here too it's the same thing. Rachel goes out because she's Leah's sister, right? V'Ashniya Mishum Tzarasa. And the second one kind of goes out because she's a Tzara, right? She became a Tzara through the evil. Also by Maimer Umeis, if all Shimon did in Chana, however, was Maimer, and then he died, so then Nachris Chana, since she's not perhaps married to Shimon, perhaps not, she has to do Chalitza, V'lo Miseh Bemes. Chalitza in case she was married to Shimon, and therefore she's, Chalitza in case she wasn't married to Shimon, and therefore was never Tzora Serva, and Shkem Miseh Bemes, because perhaps she was married to Shimon, in which case, of course, she's not allowed to marry Reuven because she was Tzora Serva. So she was Chalitza, not Yibum, and again the Gemara says, Bein Rabbanan, Bein Rabbi Shimon, about both Rabbanan and Rabbi Shimon could concede this case. Next case.
What's the difference between this mission and the one we just had?
Well, here, it's a similar case, except that here one of the sisters' husbands died, and here one of the sisters' husbands died, and here the strange woman's husbands died. It ends up being the same. It ends up being the same, but or who died changes. Okay, Allah Chazai. Shlosh Achim. Three brothers, same pattern. Two married two sisters. One married to a strange woman. So if one of the husbands of the sisters died, and then the one married to a strange woman, to a third party, takes his wife. Okay, now here the women start dying. So here we have Reuven was married to Leah, and Shimon, his brother, was married to Rachel, right? And Levi was married to some strange woman, right? So now Reuven died. Leah went and married Levi. She couldn't marry Shimon because she was married to his sister, right? Now, what happened was here is first Rachel dies and then Levi dies. Okay? Rachel dies, predeceases Levi. So by the time Shimon comes to be miyabim Levi's wife, his wife has died. Okay? So in that case, she is forbidden forever to Leah. Since she was forbidden at one time. Now this is very ironic, as Mar will point out. Were there not to be a evil situation here, then he can marry Leah. Because you can marry your brother's, your sister's, your wife's sister after your wife dies. But since at some point in history, Leah had been Zakuka to Shimon, and Shimon could not have married her at that time, which is why she got passed over to Levi, so she remains also to him forever. Since at one time there was an issue because of evil, right?
We've had this principle already.
Yeah, and the Gemara says, "I'm Ravina." That's Rabbi Yosef we had earlier. There's no comparison between the Isser of women, sisters who are Yevamos, to sisters who are not Yevamos. Because had they not been Yevamos, then Rachel would have been, then Leah would have been Muteris. But since Leah had once been Yevama, so that's why it remains also even later on. Which is right, that principle we had already. Shlosh Achim, three brothers. Now this is the next case. Three brothers, two of them married to two sisters. Is again the same case. Now Girish, this is interesting. Oh, they're all interesting. Before Reuven died, right? Well, actually, before Reuven died, he divorced the sister. Okay, he divorced the sister. Okay, now. One second. Did I get the order right? Let me try again for me. Right. He divorced Leah. Then he was then Levi died, who was married to the third party woman, and Reuven did Yibum to Chana. Right? So in that case, of course, then Reuven took her, and then he died. Zui Shamru, so in this case, of course, as they said, in all these cases, if the woman who was the erba was divorced or died or was found to be an idleness, so the same mutaros, then Chanos will have to be miyabim Shimon. Because at the time of Reuven's death, so he was no longer married to Leah, right? The erba. So therefore Chana, the co-wife, who's now the only wife, can marry Shimon. Now says the word Giresh, Rabbi Chagai, Rabbi Zira said, Lo sof dover b'shagir shchaka konas. You should know, and this is a much bigger chiddush than the Mishnah. It's not just if Leah was divorced before Reuven took Chana, but even if Reuven took Chana and was still married to Leah at that time, and then divorced Leah sometime before he died, since at the time that Reuven died, he is no longer married to Leah, despite the fact that they were married to Reuven both at the same time at some point in history, since at the time of death, Reuven has already divorced Leah, so therefore Shimon can be miyabim Chana. Okay? Elafilu cannot wait just be divorced Leah and then married to was miyabim Chana. Elafilu kanas v'chaka girish. Even if first he took Chana and then he divorced Leah afterwards. Hadoi Dedina, that's what you learned. She mason these garshu if they died or divorced at the time of Reuven's death. So saying mutar sechanas muteres mi misabed to Shimon. Rabbi Yehuda said, Av Rabbi Lezer moida. Even Rabbi Lezer says, we had him several times already, that batal agoyre ma ism l'koy ma'omed. that where the cause of the Isser has gone away, the Isser remains, he's also moida here. Because here, you can't start talking about Asr Mutter to the Yavam until Reuven dies. So therefore, whatever went before that is water under the bridge. So as long as at the point that Reuven dies, Ruchanos Muteres Shimon, that remains true, right? Rabbi Yosef said, "Vios makes sense." I'll give you proof for this, circumstantial evidence. Let's say Reuven had a gazillion kids, right? But they died by the time Reuven died. They predeceased him, right? So then, they die, and then he dies. If his wife still has to be mishabem, it seems like he wants to have kids. We see that whatever happened before the death is water under the bridge, right? So therefore here too, whatever happened before as long as at the time that Reuven died, Leah was already divorced, so therefore Chana could be a skukah de Shimon. So that's more no comparison. No. Tam and V'ushlo Banim B'Shas Misa. Here, although the halacha might be right, the comparison is not true. There, where he had kids and the kids died, so Mechayiv Yibun, because Yibun goes after Shas Misa, right? V'hacha. Oh no, it's a comparison. I'm sorry. They wanted to explain the comparison. Sorry. What's the comparison? What determines whether he was chayiv and yibur or not is whether he had kids at the time, whether his wife's chayiv yibur or not is whether he had kids at the time of death. For here too, the Kor may have changed it to b'shas misa. Again, here too we determine it after shas misa. And b'shas misa there's no Torah, so therefore therefore there's not a problem. Okay, I think we have to stop here. It's already 10:15. Everybody should daven this Rosh Hashanah, that we should have a good year learning Yerushalmi, that we should be able to muddle through Yevamos a little bit quicker than we've been doing till now. I think it gets a little bit easier as we go further on, and we should all be zoicha to finish Yevamos and other stuff.